Now, people are more willing to do more for you, with you, because of you, and forgive about the organization when they have a better connection with their leader.
Exude Human Capital Consulting hosts Hold On, Let Me Close My Door, bringing real HR stories from real professionals with real solutions to you. Join us as we navigate the ever-changing workplace with Allison DeFlorio, co-founder and managing partner of Exude Human Capital, and our special guests. Well, welcome to episode 4 of Hold On, Let Me Close My Door. I'm Allison DeFlorio, and today we're going to be talking about an issue that seems to be coming up daily in my conversations with clients, with business leaders, and HR professionals. And that's around what's happening with our managers and manager burnout. There are so many surveys and studies, recent studies, that are saying that it's harder than ever to be a first-time manager or middle manager in today's workplace, and that they're reporting higher than normal levels of burnout, which can easily rub off on teams. So in thinking about who best to shed some light on this topic, I am thrilled to have with us today Andre Young as our special guest. Welcome, Andre.
Thank you, Allison, so much for having me. You guys listening, thank you for allowing us to steal an hour or so out of your time here today. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Great, Andre. And, for our listeners, I have to share the story of how I met Andre. I had attended a human resources symposium in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, and it was the were you the last speaker of the day?
I was the closer of that event. Yes.
Yeah, the most unenviable position, right? Any speaker to hold the 4 o'clock or 3:30 to 4:30 time slot for people that have been listening to presenters all day long. And I walked into that room, and Andre hit the stage. And from the moment you started, your energy was just so amazing. And your message was so meaningful that you really had the entire group engaged and alive. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The biggest compliment is that nobody reaches for their keys. If you can keep people from reaching for their keys, you've won. You've done a great job.
Well, you did a fantastic job. And I'd love for the audience to hear a little bit more from you, but I do want to share that Andre's the founder of a company called You Evolving Now. He's a professional speaker, author. What you have authored at least 4 books, Andre, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. And again, I have to say he's one of the most energetic people I've had the pleasure of meeting. So, Andre, I'd love to have you share a little bit about your background and your work with our listeners.
Oh, sure. Well, I was a mental health therapist for 19 years in my employee days. I also throw in the fact that I played football at every level, from high school to college to professional, which lasted all about 5 seconds, but still there. So that feels like so long ago, not worth mentioning. But from a leadership standpoint, from an employee standpoint, from being promoted, and leading your friends, and then starting a business, I like to say that I've been on both sides of a lot of things. And a lot of times my content comes from the successes, the mistakes, and then, watching other people go through things as well. And now I'm honored to be able to gift that back to organizations, leaders, employees, and teams, of not only why we're talking about it, but what to do. I cringe when people call me a motivational speaker. I am high energy and interactive, but if anything, call me a motivational teacher, because I want to be able to, what to do about what your biggest pain point is.
And I love that about you as well. And the book that you had shared at the symposium that I attended is The Leadership's Toolbox. And as I was reading through it, Andre, you really do give practical advice and tools for leaders to help address some of the issues that they're facing. So we'll talk more about that as we move through our conversation today. I thought that it would be helpful just to set a little bit of context. We were talking about managers. What the heck is happening to them, and how is this stress impacting them? So I want to share some data that I found in prepping for today. And I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone listening, but according to recent surveys, today's workforce in general, about 67% are reporting feeling burned out. And this is based on a Gallup poll as recent as February. And they suggest that one of the main causes of burnout is directly impacted to the quality of the manager, right? And they describe that as burnout can be caused by unfair treatment, what they perceive as unfair treatment, lack of role clarity, unmanageable workloads, lack of communication. And it shows up in very physical symptoms, if you will. Fatigue so severe it can be crippling. Cognitive weariness, emotional exhaustion, lack of interest, motivation, or energy, and just lack of effort at work. And I thought this was really interesting. Gallup reported that when it comes to well-being, the quality of an individual's work experience has 2.5 to 3 times the impact, more than the number of days or hours that they work, which I think is really interesting. And then when we think about our topic today, managers, we know they're doing more with less. We know that they're managing in workplace models that vary and are different for them, whether it's hybrid, remote, or on-site. They're, in all fairness, most of them are not receiving the training they need to manage effectively. And most of them are not equipped with tools around self-leadership. The last thing I want to share is that the data shows that the highest rates of burnouts among managers is in the millennial and Gen Z group, right? Millennials being the highest, around 42% of millennials managers reporting high levels of stress and burnout. And think about it, they're saddled with caring for children, caring for parents, et cetera. And then this next level of managers coming up, Gen Zs, that's the second highest level.
Yeah.
We have this high level of burnout among our managers. What's happening to our teams? So I'm curious to see what you're seeing, what's happening. And
that's a big thing. I mean, when I'm talking to organizations, what I've learned years ago is not to sell when I do. I say, hey, what do you want to get out of bringing someone like me in? And so many of the organizations are echoing what you're saying. And before I like to, share what to do about burnout, I like to touch points on what you mentioned. I mean, one, a lot of times from a manager standpoint, first off, there's managers and there's leaders. We all manage before we know how to lead. Okay. So a lot of people are accepting the role of manager or that promotion without knowing how to lead. First, you sell $1 million worth of product, you will inevitably be asked to get promoted and get the sales manager position. Doesn't mean you know how to lead. So a lot of times the promotion or the manager is not there initially because they have great leadership skills. They have a great skill. And then now, because most people, it doesn't make sense to turn down more money, more security. How do I go home and tell my family that I'm not going to turn down this opportunity? I'm going to turn down this safety. I'm going to turn down this money. So they accept the position. So a lot of time the promotion is given poorly and accepted for logical reasons, but not great reasons. So and as managers, the job you used to do is no longer your job. There is a new administrative task that the company needs from you. And your other job is doing the people that are doing your old job. So that's number one with understanding the promotion. Most people in leadership positions are not there because they have great leadership skills. The other part is, no, there's not always a lot of training. Not every company brings Andre Young or people like myself in. Some do, some don't. And some of those that do, it might be the old school, put up your laptop, run the vacuum and do your household chores, come back and click it when it's done and you get your credit for it. That's not training. But as a former employee, I can't tell you how many of those I vacuumed through. Okay. Another part is the hybrid work. We're asking managers who are already doing more with less, who may not already have great leadership skills, to now only connect with their people one time a week on a Zoom call or one time a week face-to-face to get together to congregate, when there's usually business meetings, policy meetings, and procedure meetings, not connection time. So there's less connection. If you're doing hybrid and remote work, you don't get to bump into your boss or employee in the elevator or have this random conversation. Mm-hmm. So you might be building and maintaining revenue, but not culture, not connection. So that becomes way more intentional than a leader needs to do. And can they stop their busy long enough to do it? So it's skills that we can learn, but you have to intentionally, as leaders, we have to put that in our day.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point. One of the studies I read reported that 46% of middle managers say that they're likely to quit their jobs within the next 12 months. That's from the Workforce Institute at UKG. That's a pretty astounding number. I mean, that's almost 50% of middle managers reporting that. And that could be devastating to an organization to lose that level. What would you say that senior leaders should be or can be doing to support middle managers?
Sure. The biggest thing that I would say is, two big things. One, we have to have our one-on-one meetings. It's the number one canceled and rescheduled meeting across every organization. And senior leaders must understand that senior leaders are the face of the company for their managers. The managers are the face of the company for their frontline employees. And the frontline employees are the face of the company for the world. So you walk into a Wendy's or a Burger King, you're not seeing the CEO, you're seeing the frontline person. But who the frontline person sees every day matters. And then so it all trickles down and up. So having the one-on-one meetings will eliminate so many surprises, and it will allow growth when done this way. So I like to share how I run my one-on-one meetings and how I train people to do so. Number one, you have to put it in your calendar. I know you're busy. You're listening. I know you're busy. Respectfully, I have to say, so what? Everybody's busy. You're not going to get less busy. Put the meeting in your calendar. Do it once a month. You know you have somebody green. You know you have somebody that's recently promoted, and you know they don't know. Then maybe you got to do it once a week or once every other week, but at least once a month. And you schedule it for 20 minutes. You can sacrifice. We must be able to sacrifice 20 minutes. Now you have multiple people. Everybody gets 20 minutes. And put it out 3 months out. So schedule it 3 months out. So it's on your calendar. It's on their calendar, and nobody misses it. If the building is on fire, we'll have it in the street. We're going to have this meeting. I've been doing my meetings for years, and I've only missed 2. Okay? So next, how do we do the flow? The first time as a leader, and you may only have to do it this first time, but you start with the POW, the POW, positive of the week. And you share as a leader your positive of the week, both professionally or personally. The reason that's so important, number one, is that you want to get human to human and connect faster with a human being quicker than anything else. Ask what their positive is. What I guarantee you, you don't know what they're going to say. They may say they just became a grandmother. They may say my daughter just stopped getting bullied. My son just got all A's. My daughter hit the game-winning shot in the game. You have no idea. But that's what matters to them. The other part is you have to go first, because most people aren't asked, hey, what's been the best part in your week? Most people are asked, hey, how are you doing? And they go, living the dream, or, anything else that's negative, or, so they don't know how to answer your question, and they don't know what you want to hear. So you're going to hear crickets. So you go first that first time, share professionally or personally, and invite them to share the same. Okay? Now you know what to talk to them about in the hallways or in that email or in that text to ask about other than policy, procedures, and metrics. Next, you want to ask, what would you like to get out of our meeting here today? And be quiet. Don't ask more than that. I cannot tell you how much my business has evolved when I get on with my assistant, my automation specialist, my accountant, whomever, And they come up, oh, well, I was thinking this. I can guarantee you, Allison and world, I wasn't thinking that, because they're coming to me with their superpower, their thought, their viewpoint of working in my company. So that's always been interesting. Next is mesh goals. The meeting isn't an accident. We called it. So what do you want to get out of this meeting? What do you want and need from them? And this is a great point to be curious about their list, because as leaders are burning out, one of the things that as leaders we do poorly is that we stay ignorant to their list. So we think that they have their duties plus our 3 favors that we asked, not knowing that everybody else has asked them to do 3 favors. And without the daily seeing each other in the office, you don't get to see them swamped under a pile of papers or their desk looking a mess or them looking exhausted. We may have no idea what's on their list. And they're about to burn out and leave, or burn out and stay. Maybe their list isn't challenging enough and they're about to bore out and leave, or bore out and stay. So what's on your list? What are you most excited about right now? What are you most anxious about? How can I help? What's going on? Oh, I didn't know you were doing 13 people's jobs and everybody asked you to do favors. Why is that? Let's help reprioritize. What do you think you can do? Because leaders always want their people to come with a suggested solution. So help lead through that. Maybe this is a great slot to ask. Don't ask how their team is doing. That's the worst and laziest question. What's the best thing about Frank? Or what's the best thing about Susan right now? Or your team? What's the best thing that they're doing? What are you most proud of right now? Okay. What's the area you want to focus on? Okay. What's your plan on how to do that? And maybe they say something that blows your doors off. Great, let's do that. Maybe they need some fine tuning because they really haven't thought it through until you ask. So you don't just want to ask, how is your team doing? Because they may respond with their emotion of the minute. If they're happy with the team, you get the great version. They're not happy, you get the negative version. So let's get better with our questioning. And then you want to be able to say, okay, so this is our plan. So moving forward over the next month, this is what's happening. Okay, great. And then finally, that cherry on top. What was your biggest takeaway from our meeting here today?
Oh, I love that.
Let them say something. Let them say something good. Whatever they say is more real and powerful to them, and it allows them to close down that laptop, or especially when they're in the office, to walk out of your office with a little bop in their step that everybody sees, and they get to feel because they got something from it. So although there's organizational dysfunction, there's change, they're burnt out, where they're getting something of value. And not everybody's going to stay for 30 years. This isn't decades ago anymore. So they're going to stay for 5. How do you make it the best 5, the best 2, the best 12 months? And they're thankful for you that you did that.
I love that. And I have to share with you, I remember you talking about the positive of the week when I heard you speak. And my colleague and I were in the audience, and we have adopted that, and we use it at our team meetings. We use it in our conversations with our staff. And it is really interesting how it sets a very different tone for the beginning of a conversation, any conversation. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I tell all leaders, you guys listening, it only takes, you doing this in a group, I've done it in a group of 2,000. If you don't do it this way, you're going to regret doing it and you're going to be mad at me. So let me tell you, when you do it, announce, hey, this is what we're doing. I'm going to share my positive of the week. Frank, Tom, and Bob, whoever, you can say, hey, look, get yours ready. And then give them a time limit. Hey, a minute and a half each. What's your positive? And then they get an applause. Be sure to give the gift of an applause. Not when you're one-on-one. That would be weird, but to do it in a group, make sure everybody gets an applause, because most people, I don't know anybody that's going home to a standing ovation. And I'm going to tell you, you ask something like that, their husbands or wives may not be asking this question. Their kids certainly don't ask this question. They're not getting this stuff anywhere. Do you know how much more special you get to be?
Yeah.
Because it needs connection. And when we talk about burnout, people are more willing to do more for you, with you, because of you, and forgive about the organization when they have a better connection with their leader.
I can't agree with you anymore. It's 100%. It's just, it's what you're saying is so true. Andre, when I heard you speak, you spoke about, you shared the 5 points of the day. And I remember really being impacted by that. I thought that it made so much sense. And I'm hoping you could share that with our listeners today.
Sure. I'll give you the brief version because I can talk about this for days and you guys don't have days. So I often share, look, you want to live the life of your dreams, both professionally or personally, do the 5 points of the day. I will not promise that your life changes tomorrow. I do promise that it compounds over time. And I do it 5 days a week. You can take the weekends off. Okay. So the first thing we want to do with every day, first thing you want to do is be mindful of what you consume when you wake up in the morning. Most people go to their emails, and I joke, but I'm serious. You want to hate your job in 5 years, start with your emails first thing in the morning and when you wake up. It's an abyss, it's quicksand that you can't get out of. Or you go to your phone and you start scrolling, okay? Usually very entertaining, but not growth. So do something for you when you wake up in the morning that's making you better instead of bitter. Better instead of simply droning and being entertained. So whether that's listening to someone like myself, go to YouTube, short motivational videos, maybe somebody who has their morning coffee, go for a walk, whatever it is that brings you peace and makes you better, please do that first. Number 2 is organizing your day. Most of us are operating with the list of things we have to do. So let's change that language. Get to do. 7.5 billion people on this planet or more. And more than half of them would trade places on what you complain about. They take everything you complain about with a snap of a finger. So I like get to do. Get a notebook and write by your computer or wherever you are when you get to where you're going. And I want you to write a list of all of the things you get to do today for work. And you can put your personal stuff on that list. And it's good to get that out of our heads. Now, the pro and concern to that is that the pro is you have a list and you're going to cross things off and you're going to feel busy and accomplished. The concern is that you may only be busy. Because when people make lists, they tend to put things that make them busy. I want to focus on always being better. So at the top of the page, write wins. W-I-N-S, wins. What are your wins going to be for the day? I know I typically have 15 to 20 get to do things on my list to effectively run my business. I tend to have about 3 wins though. So if anything gets crossed off that list, your wins get crossed off. Because that list is never going to stop. I guarantee you'll grow and spill on to the next day. That list never stops, but your wins make you productive and win the day.
I love that. I love placing, and that's going to be a takeaway that I am going to apply, is putting those wins at the top of my list. Like yours, it's at least 15 to 20, some days 30 things to do. And you can get lost in all of
and being busy and you're on autopilot. And look, there's 50, is how many days in a year? 352 days in a year?
365, I think.
There we go. That's really bad. I teach leadership, but I don't know how many days are in a year. 360, when you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter how many days are in the year. So 365 days in a year. Let's take the weekends out and you do this, 5 days a week. That's about 300 wins. Think about that. That compounds. That becomes as addictive as being busy, addictive as losing. So point number 3 is relationship building and self-care. At some point in the day, we all hit the wall. When that comes, make sure you do something for you. Maybe that's remembering to eat lunch, taking a walk. If you're COVID living, because everybody's at home working, maybe you and your significant other or kids go out for lunch, do something for you. And if you're scrolling on your phone, be mindful of who you follow. I don't have a problem scrolling on my phone because of who I follow and what I share. Your phone is going to keep giving you what you like on a drip. So my thing if I'm scrolling midday, it's relationships advice there, it's financial, it's business, and some funny reels to make me laugh from time to time, right? Mm-hmm. The relationship part means, what would it take to send out a text to somebody you love? I hope that you have somebody you love on this planet. And whether that's your husband, your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, if you're lucky enough to have them, your friends, send out a text. Hey, I was just thinking about you. I hope everything's going great. Hey, thanks for motivating me for this. Or, I really appreciate this about you. My wife works right upstairs. And I'll send out a text. Hey, beautiful. I hope your day is going as amazing as you are. I love it. What it does for her, it actually does more for me. Because what we think about is what we feel and then what we do and then the consequences thereafter. So when I and you send a text like that, you have more love and joy in your heart to give. Mm-hmm. And they feel better to receive it. So it works both ways. It's amazing. Point number 4, how we return home. Most of you guys listening are leaders, and you would not hire anybody that would be looking miserable, talking negative, complaining about work, and dragging themselves around. But as leaders, that's how most of us return home. Come through the door or back into the living room, complaining about how dumb something was, how stupid this was, how, you can't believe this, miserable and complaining about your day. As if your family wants to hear it. Everybody wants to scatter when you get home to give, so it really means that we know what it takes to take care of ourselves to restart the day, especially with hybrid and remote work, where your roles, I have a 3-year-old. I hear her footsteps right now. She's waiting for me to get her off this call. So your roles as a leader, as an employee, as a partner, as a parent, are all smushed all day. And then the end of the day comes for work and you jump right in your next role of your life and within 20 seconds. What do you need? Do you need a walk? Do you need a shower? Do you need to walk the dog? Do you need to go to the gym? What do you need to do so you can successfully transition and have a great second part of your day? And then the last point, before you go to bed at night, I want you all to start, before you close your eyes to go to bed, I want you quietly to say to yourself and ask this question, the best question any human being can ask themselves. What was my biggest accomplishment of the day? I promise you that you will have an answer, and having an answer will allow you to have won the day instead of the day consistently kicking your butt. And I'm sure you got more than one answer. The person you're sleeping next to, if you ask, they got an answer. Your kids got an answer. But start with you and give yourself that pat on the back for being as great as you are, because you accomplished something today. Make your day count. So that's the 5 points in a very abbreviated form.
No, that is so helpful. And again, I've heard you say them before, but hearing them again and writing them down, I think it's something that anybody listening can do and share with their leaders to say, look, keep these front of mind, because they're simple things. They don't take a lot of time, and they're things that we can all do to really help impact ourselves and our days. I think about May is around the corner, which is a bit shocking that we're in May. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. If we're thinking about this context of management burnout and management stress, what would be that one best piece of advice that you would give to senior leaders and to middle managers?
I'm going to give the same advice to everybody, because the same advice that I'm going to give is not one thing, it's a process of things, but it will work. And when it doesn't work, then the writing's on the wall that this is no longer for you and it's time to go. And that's okay, because I burned out of a job before. And I was right about every single thing that I was complaining about. However, I became so wrong with how often I said it, who I continuously said it to, and how I disconnected from my team and my passion because of it. So the number one thing that we can do is marry your why. I am assuming that your boss is not showing up to your home and waking you up at gunpoint and dragging you out the door to go to work. So since that's not happening, you are showing up to the laptop or to the office for a reason. What is it? Marry your why. And since you're choosing to be there, marry it, get that, and stop complaining. So maybe you're there for the check. There was a time in my life where I needed that check. Maybe you're there for education. Maybe you're there for experience. Maybe you're there because you like your boss or your coworkers. If that's the case, great. Marry that, get that, and stop complaining. Number two is finding out what your organization needs from you most right now. A lot of times we get burnt out because we want to be doing things the old way, the way it used to be, or our way. That might not be the way any longer for a variety of reasons of what the company needs most from you right now. So let's get clear. I'm big on leadership being a marriage. Marry what you want to do and give with what the person receiving your effort needs most from you right now. So find out what that is. Hey, boss, Allison, I want to be great here. I can't, lie to you and say I'm not burning out, but what do you guys need most from me right now? Here's some ideas that I thought would love to hear what you like about it, if anything you would find too. Now we're having a conversation. Now whatever you're doing has a little bit more meaning and purpose. Not that you're going to love it, but there's some stop to it and you have a little bit more ownership to it. Number three, it is always improve your craft. You're burning out. It becomes very easy that your work suffers. And the reason I say this is you want to stay an asset. If things get better at the company and you're an asset, you get to pat yourself on the back, and so do they, that you were a part of the solution. If you leave, you want them to be sad that you're going. Hey, you're an asset. What can we do? I can't tell you how many. Oh, how much more can we pay you? It's not about that anymore. Once you pack your bags, it's not about that anymore. But now you get to go to your next job as a beacon. I left my last job, when I was a therapist, I stayed in a place for 15 years. By the time I left, burned out and everything, I had a great 13. My last 2 were not so good. When I left, I couldn't even ask, nor would I want their letter of recommendation. Keep it. So you want to be able to leave like an asset. The next thing that I would say is network appropriately. Network with the 3 Ps. I only hire or outsource with the 3 Ps. That means people have to be positive, passionate, and productive. One without the other 2 is always a problem. I can't have somebody that's all passionate but don't know what to do. I can't have somebody that's productive, but the way they're productive is a nightmare. And I can't have somebody all positive standing in the corner smiling and not getting anything done. Need all 3. So as you're burning out, the grouches recruit. Okay? Grouches recruit. And they're not always wrong. That's why the recruiting works. So don't let them recruit you because you're burning out. Up your network. So network with the 3 Ps at your level, below your level, above your level, and out in the world via LinkedIn, networking groups. Connect with 3 Ps, and enhance your network, because you don't know. Maybe you do leave. Do you have a network that supports it? Because you never know where they're going to end up 6 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now. And then lastly, vacations are necessities, not luxuries. I don't care if you got $15,000 in the bank or you have $15 in the bank. Vacations are necessities, not luxuries. So maybe with that $15K, you take a cruise. Maybe with the $15, you can I could do a $1 meal at Burger King or something like that. Or I can stay at home and get a mental health day and binge watch Law and Order. Whatever your staycation or vacation is, they are necessities, not luxuries. Give yourself a light at the end of the tunnel. And I am very fortunate to have an executive assistant, and she manages my calendar. The fact that you listening have a cell phone means you do too. Are you in your calendar? Are date nights with your significant other in your calendar? Are due and due dates with your sons and daughters in your calendar? Stop depending on on your job to fulfill you. When I started taking care of me and doing that part, my job can suck for 8 hours. Okay, I have that. What do you need me to do, boss? Oh, you good? Great. I'm going to do the best of my ability because I know I got something great coming when I go home and thereafter. Well, hopefully both are great, but you don't always get that. So make sure your vacations are necessities and not luxuries. So that's my formula for a leader's burnout. I call it a leader's burnout.
I think that's fantastic. And I hope our listeners take some of that advice, a piece of that advice, all of that advice back to those they work with, or apply some of it to yourself. I know I took a few notes here, so I'll be doing some of that myself. And I think what's really important that I heard you say is you have to plan for it. You have to get it in your calendar. The things for you, we're so used to just planning our work, but not planning that time to walk around the block, that time off that's so important. But make sure that becomes a priority.
Because we tend to work around what's on your calendar. I call it a leader's priority quadrant, and I won't share them all, but one of the quadrants, the first quadrant, is a high priority handle now. And most organizations get themselves in trouble when everything is in that quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
When I identify a high priority handle now are the things that are already on your calendar. When you wake up, you're like, I have to get to, because it's already in your calendar. Oh, I have to have this meeting, or I'm going to this meeting. I'm on this call today because it's on my calendar. It's a high priority handle now. When you put yourself in your calendar and you can schedule it out a month in advance, all of a sudden it pops up. It's already blocked out. So I can go to my wife. Hey, I have cigars. I literally have cigars with a friend at 7:00 tonight. So I talked to my wife last week. Hey, I got cigars coming up. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, hey, I have me and you on the 2nd. We're going to see Titanic as the play. It's in the calendar. And then I have a me time scheduled. I don't know when it is, but it's going to pop up and it notifies. So I put a week before notification and a day before notification. Don't let yourself miss it. It's there.
That must give you that little sense of hope on the days where it's a little bit more challenging than others, that you get that reminder that, oh yeah, tomorrow's that time. I have this.
Yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur, like, I schedule my own vacations. I can't tell you as an entrepreneur how little I schedule it based on when I was an employee, because I love what I do. So I must be intentional with taking care of me, because who else would?
And I think that's the message that I want to close with, is for people listening out there, we get it. I mean, the world's been a really challenging place the last few years for those of you who are managing and leading people. And it's going to continue to present some interesting scenarios for us. But if you find the time to care for yourself and take a moment for some self-leadership, you will be in better service to those you lead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll throw in reading. And, you're in leadership. What is it in your phone? Is it in your library? How are we going to be a great leader when everything we're scrolling or seeing has nothing to do with it? So what's your library look like? You can read for 10 minutes a day before you go to bed, or somewhere in there. Take it to the bathroom with you. You got little kids, their little fingers are under the door. Maybe it's on LinkedIn. Maybe you follow me, non-shameless plug. You can follow me. But you can, it's all there. So what are you consuming about leadership that's going to make you a better leader while you're on that vacation? People take my book. I just got a picture. Somebody said they're at the beach and they're reading the Leader's Toolbox right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So become a nerd about your craft. That's how you up your leadership as well. Be a nerd, but then apply what you've learned.
That's fantastic. With that, Andre Young, I want to thank you for being our guest today and for sharing these nuggets, these golden nuggets of information and tips for all of us to help improve our craft. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes, and thank all our listeners. We hope to see you next time on Hold On, Let Me Close My Door.